Today it is time to upgrade my Axial Bomber RR10 kit version. So let's get to it and let's start wrenching. Hey guys, Rich here from the RCNetwork.com, and today it is another episode of Wrenching with Rich. Now, I make these episodes because they're kind of easy to make. I just turn a camera on, I throw it all into iMovie, which is pretty easy for me to handle, and just kind of speed up the boring parts, and we have a pretty good video. Now, the last video I did was about 45 minutes, and it was actually building a full kit version of a Techno EB 48.4, so that's one of their 8-skill buggies. It was a pretty fun build overall, and people seem to really enjoy it. So we're back again, we're upgrading the RR10. Now, it actually doesn't need any upgrades, but I have an opportunity to run an aftermarket custom chassis on this thing. So I want to beef up a couple of parts that I think need beefing, and that's definitely the axles. I want to run a little bit more weight down low because running a steel cage, it adds some weight to it. So with that, whenever you're upgrading something, you definitely want to make sure that you're upgrading the right parts. Now, let's say you add a brushless system. Well, you're going to have to look at the transmission, the driveline, and other items that wasn't intended for a brushless system. So with that, always keep in mind when you are upgrading that it may affect other items. Now, another thing I'd like to mention is, just because you're upgrading something doesn't mean it's going to fit. There's always going to be things that will not go with other brands. So let's say you have STRC knuckles, but you're going to put on Vanquish axles. They may not agree, so you may have to, modify things to get them to work. So keep that in mind as you do upgrade. Now, when people come out with, or manufacturers come out with upgrade parts, they're intending for a beautiful specimen of a stock item for that item to fit on. So keep that in mind as well. So with that, let's go over a few things that I like to keep ready for when I get ready to upgrade. Whenever I disassemble, I use a power drill. This is my Bosch pocket driver. It has an adjustable chuck right here, so I can dial it way down. You can see right here I'm at 1 because I don't want to strip anything. So when I'm disassembling, I power through it, pull all the screws out so I can get ready to start the reassembly process. So definitely a good tool to have. I have a couple of nut drivers, 5.5, 7.0. I have my hex drivers, the MIP wrenches right here, 1.5, 2.0, and 2.5, just standard for most 1/10 scale and 1/8 scale vehicles. Needle nose pliers because you always need those. I have a 2.5 tip right here from MIP. This is going to be getting me through some of the cap head screws and the larger screws. 2.0 is in the driver right now. I have a parts tray over here. Now, this is an Avid parts tray. You can already see I have some hardware in here. I like to use this for all the hardware, so keeps it separate so I can kind of remember where things go. Always have your owner's manual as well. This is let's see what this is. This is honey ham from probably Target or somewhere, but anyways, nice for just keeping parts and bins. You can write on with a Sharpie what it is, throw the lid back on so you don't lose any parts. Always nice to have. Because we are upgrading things to aluminum parts, Loctite, I buy this by the gallon sometimes, and you definitely need this stuff. And just because things happen, I have my parts bin here with lots of hardware, so if I need a different size screw or whatever the case is, I got it all right here. This just came fresh from my pit bag, so I have these rubber band straps as well to keep me bound on this. So, well, let's start wrenching. All right, so I went ahead and removed the hood. It's actually a painted hood, and I have been really babying this thing because I don't want it to scratch. This bomber has actually not been run yet. I have some opportunity to, like I said, put on a custom cage, so I'm kind of waiting for that to actually run this, but pull this off. Always be careful of the items that you're working on. I mean, I don't like to scratch this because it has that matte finish, and it looks pretty cool. So anyways, you may ask yourself, well, where the hell are the upgrade parts? Well, they're actually arriving today. Been tracking it through USPS and just waiting for it to arrive. So it is due to arrive this afternoon, which will conduct the second portion of this video. So that's nice these days with the ability to track items and keep track of where they are in the country and everything else. So let's get wrenching and start disassembling. So You know, and when I start disassembly, I honestly don't pay attention to what screw is what. I may make a mental note sometimes. I just pull out the owner's manual to see what screws were in there. I just find it a little bit easier than trying to figure everything out in the beginning. So pulling all the links and the shocks off. I'm just going to start on this front axle here, pull everything off. And then we're also going to be replacing the lockers in the axles. I have the spools coming from Incision, I believe is the brand from Techno. Or I'm sorry, from Vanquish. I had Techno on the mind just now. And those will be arriving here soon as well. Today, in fact. So the internals on the Bomber kit is actually the hardened steel version. So won't have to mess with those too much. That is already the upgraded item. So not going to have to mess with those gears at all. All right, well, there is the axle, pulled the whole thing off. Now, I am going to be reusing the links right here, although I'm going to be changing the color. I'm probably just going to get rid of the gold color. Don't really care for that too much. And then, obviously, still going to use the MIP drive shaft and the bevel gear inside and the pinion. Other than that, this is the Vanquish top plate right here for the servo. That'll also be staying, but pretty much everything else will be going. Universals are actually pretty decent. Those are the upgraded Axial ones, so those will be staying as well. But otherwise, we'll have to strip everything down to get those new Vanquish parts on there. So now starting on the rear, just pretty much a repeat of the front. I'm going to remove the hubs here. These are the Incision hubs for the Incision KMC wheels. You can kind of see there in the far left-hand side, upper left, those are the Incision wheels. A little bit more bargain basement than the traditional Vanquish ones. They don't have like a true like bead lock on the front, or at least the bead ring. It is just a machined piece. Backside has just an easy ring on the back, kind of like the old Axial ones. And then, of course, that is the new hub, not the SLW hub. These are just a slightly different or smaller pattern and probably easier to machine as well. They're not as milled out as the SLW ones. So pretty unique, and you know, they are what they are. They're probably a little bit heavier as I grab one right here. So just round and there you go. So that's the Incision hubs. I don't mind these wheels at all. They look great, and you know, they're definitely detailed that you would expect from Vanquish, and of course they have the little XD caps, which I've got to say are a complete pain to use these because you have to sandwich this between the wheel and the hub back here. So the only way to remove a wheel is to remove these 6 bolts to get to the nut. So it's kind of weird, but anyways, that are those. Let's get the rest of this stuff off and disassemble the rear axle so we have it ready to go for those parts coming in later. And whenever I can, I like to go ahead and, like, this is a set screwed for the trailing arm down here. I like to go ahead and put that back in, you know, whenever possible, to keep at least some of my sanity when I'm reassembling. And I just leave it sticking out just like that, just so I know that that's where something went, which is nice. So go ahead and get the other side here. Now, I am going to be replacing these trailing arms with the Vanquish versions. All black, of course. We're keeping this build completely murdered out, I guess is the technical name for it. And that's why we're kind of redoing some of the gold on there. I'm not a fan of gold at all. So getting rid of some of the gold, at least making it silver. I may attempt a black flat spray paint on it, but that's not going to last long, so we'll have to see about that. We're also going to dismiss these King shocks, because if you notice, I have these new Proline Ultra Reservoir shocks. These things are pretty amazing and a little bit of a pain to build, but once you build them, they work pretty good, and they have an actual functioning piston or push rod in the reservoir, so that's pretty nice. Nice little scale feature there. Let's go ahead and pull off these King shocks. These will be going on another build though, so don't get hopes up on me giving these away. These are probably my favorite axial shocks to date, as I just lost the little pin there. Or not the pin, but the little rod ball or whatever it's called, the flange. These are pretty cool right here. These are the Scalar Fab little boat sides. I really dig those things. I mean, Troy is amazing when it comes to his craftsmanship on those things. I mean, just look at it. It's like custom fit for, I mean, it even tucks in. I mean, it's just amazing. 2 screws hold it in, and it's the same screws that bolt into the chassis. So, amazing job from Troy over at Scalar Fab. So, I think we're ready to pull this thing out, which we just did. So, still have the MIP drive shaft, like the front one. We are going to be keeping, we are going to be getting rid of the axles. I believe I did order the Vanquish ones, and then of course the bevel gear and pinion will be staying, but everything else will be going. So, should be pretty good, and I can't wait to get those parts in a little bit later and show you what they can do. Alright, so I'm disassembling all of the axles now, and one thing I do have to do is go ahead and remove the MIP drive shafts. Now, I don't know what sort of Loctite comes with the MIP. It's like a thread gel, but it glues that pin in like you couldn't imagine. I've actually broken a 1.5 MIP driver trying to remove that before. So my trick to getting it out is actually firing up the soldering iron. I have it set at 750 right now, and then basically just leaving this set on that screw for a good 20-30 seconds to heat up the Loctite, melt it, so you can go ahead and remove that screw. It is a 1.5 drive screw, so it is a lot smaller than the stock. I believe the stock's a 2.0, so it just helps you get that screw out without breaking your driver. So just waiting for this to heat up now. Be careful as you remove it, because it will be hot, especially the screw. So, and I think that's been about long enough. Usually you'll see even the Loctite actually bubbling a little bit, or at least smoking. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my driver in there and go ahead and slowly remove it, and there it goes. It's my hand's in the way, so you can definitely see the buildup of Loctite on this. And I usually don't use a lot of Loctite, but there's the screw, and it's out now. So I'm going to go ahead and keep on disassembling these items and get it ready for those new Vanquish parts. So went ahead and got everything disassembled that I don't need off of the front axle. So I got a big kind of bin of parts now with the drive shafts and the steering linkage and all the bits and pieces, the servo mount. It's all inside here now. That way I can just pick from it. Also pulled out the front differential, because I am going to be reusing those bevel gears and the pinion in the new Vanquish one. So, but that's pretty much all done. I am going to be switching out to some Avid Revolution bearings as well. So going to be going to, I think they're green in color, a little bit better bearing for overall longevity of use. So, but those are going to the side now. Now it's time to start on the rear. I also put down like basically just a paper towel down here, because a lot of the diff portion is pretty greasy, keeps my work area clean. So I'm going to go ahead and start cranking on this thing and see what we can pull out of here. going to save those. Those are the Vanquish HD axles for the rear. So those are going to go in the parts bin. So we're ready for them a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this stuff just so I keep my sanity and I don't have extra parts laying around that I wonder where they went to. So I'm going to go ahead and just hand tighten these so they don't have to be super tight. And these always tend to strip more than anything, these little lockout screws. So if you happen to have one of these AR60 axles, the Vanquish clamping lockouts are just absolutely beautiful. They clamp now versus just the little set screw that you can never put enough Loctite on, but the clamping ones are a lot nicer. Now the Currie axles actually don't use pretty much any lockout anymore. It's just a straight shot all the way out. So no more bending drive shafts at this kind of weak point right here on the Wraith or Yeti, or even the Bomber right here, the rear axle. So pretty nice. And there we go. Pull the diff out, and this will be going over in the parts bin. I'm going to reuse that bevel gear, and this is it for the rear axle. I'm going to just pop out the pinion gear as well, because I will reuse that. And we're set. We're just waiting for the parts to show up. They should be here in about an hour, and we'll start wrenching on putting some cool new parts on my Bomber. All right, so all of the new parts have arrived here, and it's never a dull day when you get a box of RC parts. So really nice to have these here for the Bomber build over here. And I mean, I'm not a Vanquish fanboy by any means. I'm a quality and consistency fanboy. So if that makes any sense, I mean, I've never had an issue with any of their products, and the quality's top notch. It has the right look. It has the functionality, the durability. I mean, it's just good stuff. Now, these definitely do cost more than the typical, arrive by boat type part, but these are definitely worth the extra little bit that you do pay for it. You do have official licensing on many of these products. This is a Currie Enterprises F9 axle. That's actually for the front, so it's going to have the huge truss right there as well. The rear one, very nice as well. All the bells and whistles on this thing, and this will do nice. There's no lockouts on the rear of this one. It just goes straight out to the 12mm hexes, so pretty nice item. Two other items for the front. These are going to be the just the standard Wraith, and they're meant for the RR10 as well, but the knuckles right there, and also the C-hubs. I didn't opt for the scale version. I just wanted the stock one. I think these will do quite well. I think these are the 8 degree, I think is technically what they are, but very nice as well. Now this is the new Vanquish servo horn, 25.2 spline for that Futaba servo, 24mm in length, I believe. Yeah, 24mm length, so it's about the same as the Axial hard anodized version, so the clamping one. This one also clamps in 2 positions, but pretty nice, and I know it's just well engineered and kind of over-spec'd for almost anything. And I did pick up 2 of the incision spools. These are a chromoly design, so they're pretty heavy, and they're definitely beefy for those new axles, those new F9 axles. And then lastly, picked a set of the Vanquish trailing arms. These are second to none. I mean, they don't have a rod end that will end up breaking. They do have a fully adjustable, and this is fully patented through Vanquish to fully adjust that steel ball that's also inside there. So very nice product, and I run these on several of my rigs, and a little bit quirky to get fully installed, but once they are, they're very nice. So let's get installing. So just going into building up the differentials, and you can see I've already taken everything out of the package for the front. So we have the C-hubs, the knuckles, all of the rear assembly. Also pulled out another parts tray, and that's going to be all my new hardware right here for the Currie axle. Now, as far as the differential, this is going to be the new one right here. So right here we're looking at the Incision spool. It's all chromoly, added some Avid bearings. Now, originally I said I needed to pull up a parts bin. So this is kind of all my hardware I use here at the RC Network. And I picked up a kit from Team K&K. They make some great stainless steel hardware, and that's what you'll see here. And the main reason I use this is not because of the color, but because the new spool uses really short screws now. So to give you an idea, the stock screws that came on the Axial differential was quite a bit longer. So hopefully you can see that, and it would stick out quite a bit. Now you can cut these, but just using a good stainless steel screw makes some good sense. So just to give you an idea of what the old differential looked like, this is just a chromoly piece right there, which is nice. And then when you look at the old version, it's in like a plastic housing, and this is what the old one looks like. There we go. And what is inside of that is kind of like a iron cross looking locker. So that's going to prevent the differential from actually spinning right or left. So it makes both wheels spin directly. So pretty cool design, but the spool will definitely make a much harder connection. And what I found with these spools is that there's almost no play at all. You almost have to hammer in the axle ends. This one fit in pretty good, but it provides a really tight fit, and there's almost no slop at all with these spools here. So let's keep going and installing them. I'm about ready to start building the F9 Currie. Now I haven't built one of those, so there's going to be kind of a learning curve. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off at this point, figure out how to build this thing, and then I'll go back on camera for the rear, and we'll kind of see how that turns out. All right, so it's been a good solid hour, and I do have the F9 axle all together. I mean, this thing is just beautiful. I mean, look at this thing. It's like jewelry. Got the blue anodized C-hub and knuckles here for the RR10, and also mounted the Vanquish servo mount up on the top here. This was already on the build, so I went ahead and added it up there. So you can kind of see all of the beautiful hardware on this side of it. Now this is a pretty unique differential setup because everything mounts to the cup here on the front, or on the middle side of the differential. So you have all of the pieces, the bevel gear, the pinion, and everything kind of mount to this, and then this slides into the housing. So a little bit different than all of the other ones like the Currie and the AR60. So but you know, it was definitely a very nice engineered design. So one other thing that is nice with especially some of Vanquish's more complicated items is they get you a full set of directions, including one-to-one measurements, everything you need. All the hardware was there. Just absolutely beautiful. You can kind of see here where everything gets attached to that front cup, and then this all slides into there, and it is attached by, I don't know, like 1,400 screws. So getting into the differential is a little bit more trickier now. It's not just 4 screws to expose the cover, and then 4 more screws to bring the differential out. You have, I don't know, at least 8 screws right there, another 4 inside. So quite a bit of more work, but these things are pretty bomb-proof. Shouldn't have to get into that too often, except for maintenance. So, but now I'm going to go ahead and get this thing mounted up to the RR10, and then we will do the full assembly of the rear together. So the front section is completely done now. I did paint the links, which was probably a huge mistake overall, but I was so tired of that gold color that Axial uses for their aluminum links down here, also for their servo horn. But this gives you a look at how that nice F9 axle looks with all the little blue pieces right there. Kind of matches into some of the shock little bits and pieces, and then of course I have like a blue theme going with the RC Network logo and the striped hood and that kind of stuff. So looks pretty good overall, and just the functionality of this thing is just beautiful. So Vanquish did a great job on getting us a really scale looking Currie axle there, the F9. So now it's on to the rear. Of course I have the rear all ready to accept a new F9 axle, so it's time to go ahead and start building that. Got the learning curve out of the way, so now I'm pretty comfortable at least at building the front, so we'll see if that applies to the rear as well. So let's get this thing going. I guess whenever I look at upgrading an RC, that's the fun part. You know, buying a stock item is always nice, but once you start to getting to upgrading and modifying things, that's the cool part. That's what I really enjoy about RC overall. And I'm looking for my parts tray, which is right in front of me here. Some extra little bits and pieces from the last Currie axle builds. So let's go ahead and get rid of this stuff, because I don't want to mix it up with some of the new parts. Because then I start thinking, wait, was this supposed to go somewhere? And it doesn't. So then as I open everything up, just inspecting everything, making sure everything is the way it should be. There's no defects or anything, and you can kind of see in there. I mean, just a beautiful work of art, even into the scale welds for the little Currie logo, and it looks the part that you'd want for a scale rig. So time to get building. Lots of little set screws with this one. There's all sorts of little drain holes that it can have, and they give you lots of little different set screws to go into there. And of course, with this kind of build, you have to use a lot of Loctite. And I am seeing some C-clips. I have a neat little tool for dealing with C-clips, at least the ones with the holes, not the E-clips. E-clips are a little bit different, but this one are like a C-clip that has the little holes in there. So I'll show you guys a neat little tool later in this build. I picked it up, God, a long time ago. I think actually at Sears is where I bought it. Needed it for actually an auto part situation, and needed some C-clip pliers. It'll actually either expand or contract them depending on which way your little C-clips are. And here's a little look at that little C-clip, and I think this is intended to keep I think the bearing race in. I can't remember on the Curries, but that's what it looks like. Just opening up all of these bags. This is like half of the process with these things, and I appreciate this. They've given us some pretty good packaging for the investment that these Vanquish parts are. So right here we're looking into the front diff cup, also the bearing races that sit inside. You know, just nice machined parts. This is machined aluminum still, nothing stamped. And then you also get this larger bearing that actually rides on the inside of the Currie axle. So on the inside right there is where that bearing will ride. The outside still uses the stock one. So, but like I said, we were going to try and use some Avid bearings, although I think I might be running out. I need to order up some new ones. So here's the bulk of the screws, and also the larger bearing. But gosh, look at the outside of this thing. It just looks legit. I mean, it looks pretty cool. So, but that's upgrading an RC. That's the fun part about it. Now, another thing that's kind of unheard of these days, especially with upgrade parts, are detailed instructions. And Vanquish actually already does it for you. I mean, it's like what you'd find in an RTR or like a kit. It gives you all of the stuff, one-to-one dimensions right here. It's just really nice. So nice that they're including that, and they don't leave us up to try and figure that out, which we end up going back on their website, looking at photos and trying to figure out what screw goes where. Lots of plastic. Good gosh. Giving my Spyderco a run for its money. If you guys happen to want to know, this is actually a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. This is S30V. I'm kind of like a knife geek, and it does have the DLC coating. Spyderco may have their own name for that, but compression lock, which I really like, and of course the Spidey hole, which makes it easy to deploy. Very good sized knife. I mean, it is large and in charge, so that's why I like this particular knife, because it fits my hand pretty well. So anyways, that's enough of knives. We are an RC show, and that's exactly what we'll be doing here. Now, they do give you these kind of multi-purpose holders. I was kind of worried that I would need a different holder for the RR10, but these end up working quite nicely on the front. So there's also extra holds right here on the truss as well. So you have 1, 2, and then some secondary hole positions for the link mount and shock, or you can mount the shock a little bit higher up here on the truss. So kind of a nice design that they've kind of included in this one. As we're getting all the parts out, good gosh, this is a lot of parts, but it's nice. Gotta love upgrading. Long set screws. Now these are going to be actually for those secondary positions. This actually rides all the way through, and then you can drop set screws in to hold this set screw in. So nothing like a set screw for the set screw. And as I'm kind of putting everything into this little McLaren Racing parts tray, it is magnetized, so I'm kind of separating out everything to keep the different parts in different areas. So as we go along in the instructions, it'll definitely make sense. So last thing is we're going to be unpackaging this Incision chromoly spool. So this is going to be the new locker for the differential that'll ride inside of that Currie axle. And we'll have to disassemble the stock differential, make sure that that's all ready to accept this nice new piece here. So this is chromoly. Definitely not going to have an issue. This has some weight to it too, which is nice. All right, so now it's time to actually assemble the spool onto the stock differential. Already went ahead and removed the stock portion of it, so we can go ahead and add on the spool. Now there is a gasket which you don't need. I mean, it's if you want to fluid fill your diff at some point, but we definitely don't need that because it's not a fluid fill, it's a spool. So just grabbing some paper towels here. It's greasy. This was a freshly built kit, so I was pretty generous with the grease on that one. So with this, Loctite is your friend when you're dealing anything metal to metal. And what I like to do, because I know if you look at all these screws here, everything needs Loctite. I just go ahead and dab out a good dime-sized shape of Loctite there, and then I can just kind of dab into it as I need it. So that way you're not having to get two hands every single time to deal with things. So just a little tip there that I use. If you've ever built any of the Vanquish wheels, you would know what I'm talking about, because those are just horrendous when it comes to the amount of Loctite. Or if you built a RC four-wheel drive kit, you would definitely know what I'm talking about. I think Joe Ferguson over at Scale Freak RC just built his long wheelbase edition. I think he's been waiting for that one for years. I think he's always wanted a Trailfinder 2, and he finally got one. So really proud of Joe. I mean, Joe, if you've been following along enough, you know that he was Average Joe's RC. Super cool guy. I mean, he's like my motivational speaker. if you know Joe or follow Joe, I mean, he's just an awesome guy. He's I believe he's a sales manager now with Henley Honda up in Canada. I don't know exactly what area of Canada, but he's a super cool guy. I mean, something I would never expect from Joe is, I guess he just did a kind of like a UFC type of fight, pearl gloves. I don't know all the exact names for that, but I mean, I saw one picture where his face was just demolished. I mean, tough guy, man. So if you haven't checked out Skill Freak RC, definitely check it out. Cool info, and he's just into some of the scale rigs. I mean, he has the LWB, the long wheelbase now, which is nice. So there's a look at the new spool. Had to add those stainless steel K&K screws. So those are added in, just a little bit shorter screwed than the stock ones. And we're riding on bearings there. I've ran out of Avid bearings, so we're gonna have to stick with the stockers. These are still brand new, but they'll do fine. So now it's time to go ahead and load everything into this. This is the front of the diff cup. So as you see right here, this would just ride straight in like that. Actually, this way. And everything gets loaded into here, and then this gets slid into the differential housing. So should be pretty interesting. But let's go ahead and load the pinion in. Now, as far as shimming, a lot of people ask me, do I shim my diffs? Only when you need to, and these things are just such high quality items that I don't personally think you need to shim these things, but if you feel you need to, go for it. I think you would need it maybe on the underside of this pinion right here. You definitely don't need it on side to side. I don't believe there's really any place to even put it, so that's where the pinion rides inside there. Hopefully that's clear for you guys. Look at that, already pre-greased. Love it. Now the orientation on this is pretty nice because there isn't one. There's only one way you can do it. So you don't have to go refer back to your owner's manual or check anything else out. Just getting these races ready to accept differential here, the new spool. Really confusing on this one when I first initially put it. I was originally trying to install the differential and the races into the cup here, and that definitely didn't work. There was some serious binding there, but that's how this goes, and then this gets loaded into that other piece there. So now it's kind of like a balancing act. We need to go ahead and find some of these 3x8s, which I have located them. 2.5mm driver on this guy. And once again, that Loctite is really handy, just sitting in like a puddle on your station there. Now, whenever I screw stuff in, I think I covered this in the last video too, but I like to do a star pattern, or at least a diagonal pattern. So we're going to go ahead and put this one in, just basically hand tight, not totally tight. We'll take this guy. We'll do the exact opposite side, or the diagonal side. So we're going to go all the way over to this side over here. Just make sure that everything's lined up. I mean, that's the key part. You never want to start cross-threading. With Vanquish aluminum, you really don't have to worry about that. Some of the softer aluminums out there, especially the stamp stuff, you do have to worry about that, because the slightest bit of torque, especially if you're using a power driver, which I don't recommend for installs, you definitely want to be careful when you're first threading in. Make sure that you've got the threads lined up and going into that aluminum the correct way, because not all aluminums are created equal. So now that we have this all the way in, we're going to do a quick little test. Tighten, and once again, tighten that one down. We're going to tighten the opposite side. Make sure everything's snug down. Loctite will now seal it, and we're good to go. So right there, a quick test spin. Ah, that's butter smooth. Don't really feel too much grinding of the gears, which is nice. And these are slightly designed bevels, so they have a little bit of a swirl motion to them. So gosh, this is smooth. So pretty nice. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some grease and just give it just a quick little butter of grease on there. There's different brands out there, but I build so many kits, I have tons of different little grease tubes laying around. So I'm going to go ahead and grease this up, and let's get this thing all installed into the Currie axle. Alright, so went ahead and got everything kind of ready to be loaded into this side, but before we do that, instructions are saying to go ahead and build the arms that go out or the axles. So we're going to build those things. I also got a hold of my little C-clip tool. This thing is it actually stamped Craftsman. I literally bought it probably 20 years ago, 15 I would probably estimate, and it is just priceless because it has these little angled pieces on there, so you can actually flip this to either spread or to compress a little C-clip. So pretty nice little item, and as you can kind of see here, I can hold on to it, although it does say to wear safety glasses, and it is pretty on there, so you do have some good control to get this into little areas, especially for this build. So I'll try and have a link for these. I don't know if they're still available, at least from Craftsman, but I'll find something that is very similar. So if you happen to be building one, you can pick a set of these up. I think they were just like $8 or $10 or something like that, from what I remember. So, and then I also grabbed the stock axle for the orientation of where the bevel gear rides, and then which side gets the small and long axle arms. So let's go ahead and start building these things up. So I do also have my stock parts, the bulk parts right here, and we do have like the Vanquish. I think these are chromoly axles, so these are a great addition as well. But we need to start building here, so let's see what we need. So first thing we do need to do is go ahead and drop in our bearing on into here. And this is where that C-clip goes in. So I'm going to go ahead and load this into my tool. And this should be easy. But let's see if we can get a camera view as well. If we can get some stuff to focus here. Doesn't want to pick up on anything. There we go. Load this on in. And it should be as easy as that. Little snap. There we go. That was easy. I have fought with C-clips before, so I think this thing is definitely worth its weight in gold. Now, so let's go ahead and load this thing in to this side. Oh, that fits perfect. So, and I'm going to go ahead and load in the 12mm hex as well. Drop this piece in. These are just the stock ones. I didn't think that I really needed to buy the Vanquish ones. They are nice, but I don't think you really need those. Not for this build. Although I am running those on my SCX-10 too, and they are quite nice. But they're hidden. So, alright, that is all in. Got grease all over this, but matte finish is just beautiful on these F9 axles. Now it's time to go ahead and load these things on in to the axle. So we have instructions down here, and let's check the orientation once again, because we're going to pull this apart, and Currie logo is the right side up, so we're going to do the long shaft on this side. And there's an up and down on this, and that's what we have to be careful of. Actually, we do need this thing in here. So as we picture it over there, we're looking into here, and this is getting loaded in. And I guess we will go ahead and assemble all these screws on here. And there's two different sizes, and this is the weird thing. One are metric, one are standard, which is really odd. So let's go ahead and sort those out and start getting Loctited on. Alright, so this is all now together. I don't think anyone needs to see someone hand tighten 15 screws into a differential housing, but they're all in now, and like I said, these are a standard size and these are a metric size, and they're very close in the size specs, so had to really kind of differentiate which ones were which. They all came in the same bag, so now it's time to go ahead and put the two different axle sides on. So with that, we are going to get our orientation over here from the stock one and line up the holes right there with the shaft. And there we go, fits in like a glove. And then there is a particular orientation for the way that the link mounts get mounted. If you see down here, this is the upside, and this is where the truss will end up being. So we're going to go ahead and drop in a particular screw just to hold the side piece, and then we will mess with it a little bit later with the truss. So we're going to go ahead and drop this screw in. We will go ahead and Loctite it just because I don't want to pull stuff out and re-Loctite it. It's a little bit of a pain, just seeing from the original front one that I did, because it goes all the way through this little slot right here and down in. And it just basically holds that drive side down. There's like a little race that it sits on. I'll show you guys right here, and that's where the set screw just sets into. But that's not what actually holds these pieces. The truss is actually what bolts everything together. So pretty nice design. And now we're going to go ahead and do this one as well. And just hand tighten on that. Now what's so nice about these new axles is you see there's no lockouts. It goes straight out to the 12mm hex, where this one uses like a lockout, and it basically makes a weak point because there is kind of almost like not a hinge, but a weak point for the axle, and you end up bending axle shafts. So companies like Beef Tubes and all those guys are reinforcing the plastic ones, where this just cuts the middleman out and you get a nice axle straight to go without any issues. So let's go ahead and start bolting on the truss now. So we're going to take this piece right here, and this goes on like so. And you can see there how this is really coming together now for a complete nice design. So I'm making sure that I have everything lined up correctly, and it does look like I do. Now different screws here as well. The one I like to sink first is going to be, well, let's see, I have them all lined up here. Let's go with the 20mm first. And I need more Loctite. So we're going to drop a little bit more into there. A little bit bluer in there. There we go. And this will go in. There is the truss onto the Currie F9. Now it's time to get the link mounts and drop in a bunch of these set screws, because they're set screws that kind of go all throughout this thing, just to finalize, the waterproofness of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those things on. I'll be right back. All right, so fully assembled Currie F9 axle. Got the truss on. All the tiny little screws are in, or set screws. This side, you're seeing the link mounts right there and there. Very nice piece overall. You do have upper link mounts as well up here. You have secondary shock position holes, although I noticed that this one is quite a bit deeper on this side versus this side. This will fit the Proline shocks. This one will not, so it sets a little bit too far deep in there, so you'll have to have like an extended rod end on your shocks if you do plan to use these other mounts. So, but otherwise, I mean, this thing is just super smooth. I mean, can't even hear it. It's quiet. So let's get this thing mounted up and see where we'll end up. I'm probably just going to mount up the king shots for now, just because it's going to take a little while to build up those ultra Proline shocks, the reservoir ones. So we're going to get those mounted up for now. Also pull out the Vanquish trailing arms, get these things built up as well and mounted up to my bomber. So just reinstalling the new rear axle, and also went ahead and got the trailing arms together. A little bit of Loctite on that as well. So I've already just to mount all of this stuff back up. Already got the MIP drive shaft in, got the upper links installed. Like I said, I painted those black. I huge mistake. I've actually already ordered the Vanquish or Incision line of stainless ones. That's the ones I originally wanted for this build, but they were out of stock at the time. So anyways, those are ordered. So those will go on in a future time. They should be here like, I don't know, today is Monday. They should be here by Wednesday, which is pretty nice. The Vanquish is pretty close to where I live, at least up the state. So now just getting these trailing arms mounted with these little set pins right here. And then it's a matter of putting in the sway bar and not only the shocks. I think we're done. That'll be this episode of Wrenching with Rich. So tell me how you guys like this stuff. I mean, honestly, this is just me wrenching right here, but let me know what your thoughts are. What would you like to see in the future? Is there something I'm missing, or, you know, do you want to watch me personally do it, or do you like the kind of the workbench look right here? I'm up for what you guys want to see. So a lot of these longer videos. You know, the last Wrenching with Rich episode, 45 minutes, and it's gotten a ton of views. One of my most watched videos. So if you guys like it, I'm down. I got plenty of card space on my SD cards. I can go all day long if you'd like. Do a 24-hour live feed here, I guess. But so this is looking nice right here. Lots of smooth suspension travel. So now we're gonna flip it over. Hopefully I've got these two things ready to go on, and it looks like I do. Now I've switched out all of the hardware to these larger, not a larger diameter screw, but just a larger cap head. I like these 2.5 heads on there. They just fit the driver, and if you happen to get dirt or whatnot caught in there, it's easier to pick out. So I like those over the 2.0 head size. I'm now just going to go ahead and get these things fit in there. And these plastic ball ends from Axial, they don't fit on the Vanquish little deal. So you have to pull them out and then trim them. So I've just been trimming them with like an X-Acto knife. So, and that's worked pretty good so far. So let me get those things trimmed off camera because they're a little bit awkward to get. Alright, well there you have it. We have everything installed now. I think it turned out great. I mean, you can't beat upgrading an RC vehicle. It is a lot of fun, and I think that it really gets you into the hobby. It gets you exploring different avenues with upgrade parts and, you know, seeing what your RC can really do. Now, in the scale world, it's all about being just original and having that scale factor. I mean, just look at that thing. It just looks completely amazing. I mean, the suspension travel is ridiculous. Sway bars, and I mean, all of the cool little features of these little Currie F9 axles. I mean, they're just amazing. Overall, can't wait to get this thing running. I got new links coming here in a couple days. I'm gonna get those things mounted up. They'll be the stainless steel ones, and it's an endless game, man. It is endless to have fun in the RC world and keep upgrading and having fun in RC. Well guys, that is it for now. Let me know what you think about these videos. Like I said earlier, put your comments down below. Do you want to see shorter videos, longer videos, more in-depth, more of me talking? Do you want talking head, so to speak, instead of just the vehicle? Please let me know that. So comments, questions on down below, and as always, thumbs up and subscribe. That's it for now, guys. Over and out.